Welcome everyone to the PUD Board of Commissioners meeting for October 14th. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, I would be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Motion.
Tie goes to the winner.
Motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 5.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The motion carries. We would now love to hear some audience comments, should anyone so choose. I see just great staff in the room here. Online, if you'd use the raise your hand function. Not seeing any there. All right. Well, we can now move on to the budget hearing, which of course we will open a public hearing to discuss the budget for 2026.
Good afternoon. Welcome
Hello.
to 2026 proposed budget for the Skagit PUD. Tonight, we'll be covering these topics. Start out with a little year-to-date through September activity, financial activity. Talk a little bit more about the budget process for those less familiar with our process here at the Skagit PUD. Then we'll get into the sources and uses of the budget for 2026. Talk a little bit our capital improvement plan. That's a 10-year improvement plan for all the capital improvements that we have budgeted. Then we cover the financial metrics, and then we'll end with the schedule for the rest of the budget presentations. All right, I'd like to start with this graph. This is the January through September consumption trends for the last 3 years. And you can see, I'll use the pointer up here, that the dark color graph here, we've been trailing the 2024 consumption all the way until the end of the year. Right now, through September, we're only 0.3% below 24 consumption. But I think it's more interesting to look at 23 consumption on here. Let me get my cursor back in April, June, July, and then in September. We just had a lot of consumption in 2023. Dry weather, also when the rains came, that's definitely driving our consumption numbers. So we're about 10% below 2023, but we are on track for 2025 compared to 2024. How's that equate to finance? Financially, we're doing well. $25.3 million after 9 months. That's a 5% increase over water sales in 2024. We're about 5% ahead of budget through 9 months, so that's also good. That's a seasonal budget, so it should take into account the months that we've done and then the remaining months of the rest of the year. You can see up there the largest dollar increase was on residential and multifamily, 6% increase, $18 million of revenue come from that. The largest percentage increase was on irrigation, which was a 10%, but that's on about $600,000. So all 4 categories ahead for the year and trending ahead of budget. So that's good. Operating expenses, you can see at the bottom there, $14.8 million of total expenses through 9 months. That's a 9% increase over last year. So a substantial increase, but you can see compared to budget, we're at 92% of budget. So that's trending well. We're below budget. That's good. Takes into account some of the timing of projects and also delivery. Salaries and wages is the largest dollar. It's a 6% increase, $9.3 million. We're well under budget at 91. Some of the things that are impacting that for the first 9 months is that we've had some planned retirements for this year, and we hired overlapping staff to accommodate some of those retirements. And also you can see the bottom line here on the construction in progress, where this is the labor that we capitalize and charge to capital projects. We're about 31% below last year and also below budget. So the projects that we've done and also the amount of capital projects year to date have just been a little bit lower than what we budgeted for. So some of that will probably be go the other way for the last 3 months of the year, but we are below budget there. Some of the other points I'll point out: repairs and maintenance and fleet, that's an 8% increase here. It's $1 million. We're well below budget. A lot of this is just timing of projects or a purchase during the year. We're 8% over last year. Another interesting one is tech SCADA support. We're actually -3% from last year at just under 900,000, but it is 121% over budget. So these are projects with long lead times. We purchase supplies. A lot of this is probably actually last year's projects that are actually getting done in this year, and then we'll have another leg going into next year. And related to that is professional services of this 257,000. That's a 10% increase, but these are usually contracts with security firms or maintenance firms that are hired and just due to timing of the projects when the expenses come through. Goods and services, this is a general increase that most people are experiencing now. Utilities, insurance, all those have gone up substantially. Ours have too. That's a 13% increase, but we did budget it for it. We do have some one-time moving expenses in there, outfitting the new building and some expenses like that. This should continue to trend down from this point on. And then utility and other taxes is just commensurate with the increase in sales that we've had. So our utility taxes and other taxes that we pay to the state and other governments has gone up 6%. So after September comes in, I take those numbers both on operating and revenue. I forecast out to the end of the year to come up with the ending reserves, which then turn into the 2026 beginning reserves. So it's an important financial calculation that goes into the updating of the financial plan for the budget preparation. So right now it looks like we'll be ahead of budget by about 1.2 million, and in the year around $36.5 million in total revenues. That includes water sales plus interest income, any other revenues that we would have from loans or drawdowns or interest or penalties. Disconnection fees all go into that number. On our operating side, we're at $20.5 million forecasted for the end of the year. We're trending ahead of our average, which is about 95% of the operating budget. So that's a good trend. Debt service is fixed for this year, 4.7 million. That's for all the debt that we've taken out in prior years to pay for the capital projects. So the net income is about 11.3 forecasted out for the end of the year. That's ahead of budget by almost $2 million. And then on the capital side, we've done $7 million through September. We budgeted 15 million in capital this year. So we're trending just a little bit shy or slow, but we've just are going to award another project tonight, and we awarded one recently here. So forecast out till the end of the year, we should do about $12.7 million in capital projects for the year. So the other thing I'll point out here is the difference between these two comes out of reserves. And so we have the reserve number forecasted for the end of the year of about $23 million. That's what we've been using to pay down the capital project for the last 3 years and also going forward for the next couple of years. So we should be good for the next couple of years anyway. All right, the budget process now. So we've all been through that several times now, the commissioners have. I'll explain to the other people that might be less familiar with it. But we start with a request out to all the departments in early summer. That's to update their CIP project list and also the projects for expenses, time frame. We put all those together into the district-wide priorities. We align those projects with how much we have in resources, both dollars and staffing resources, so that we can lay them out for the next several years. A lot of that is just depending on if something is interrelated. So at the water treatment plant, there's a lot of planning that goes and is involved in planning this project that might impact downstream or down the next project. So we spend a lot of time just organizing the CIP, which we'll be talking about more detail later. We put all those together, and then I updated the forecast, like I said, for the financing plan and the funding. We're trying to balance rate increases with other funding to pay for all the capital project needs that we've identified. We lay those out for the next 10 years, and then we put that into the proposed budget. So that's what we're doing tonight. We're prepared all that, and we'll be presenting that over the next 4 weeks for the board, but commission approval and modifications with community input and board input as we go forward. All right, some of the strategic objectives. Asset management continues to be a primary focus. We're not only trying to extend the useful life of the infrastructure, but optimize it. So that comes into some of the discussions that we had on laying out the CIP plan. We're also trying to balance the amount of investment with rate stability. So we don't want to just pay everything with rates, or if we do that, then that limits how much we can do. A lot of the discussion this year has been around the pipe replacement program. Engineering has brought forward their plan to replace pipes that we are seeing either leaks earlier than they should be, or where the pipes are at the end of the useful life. And so they've talked about that with the board several times. So that'll be part of the CIP. And then also water resource, manage and promote conservation. I put the irrigation with the irrigators this year. You know, anything that we can do that we don't have to treat the water, but the water gets onto the crops downstream, you know, that saves resources too. So all of that goes into the strategic plan and objectives, and also part of the budget process. So after all that, we try to balance the beginning reserves and next year's revenues. I use the forecasted numbers to come up with that beginning reserve number, which is about $23 million. It has to be balanced with the expenditures and ending reserves from at the end of next year. And when those two are equal, then we have a financing plan. And then we, at the end of that, we also check that it meets all of the financial policy guidelines that have been adopted by the board in earlier sessions too. So all of the sources this year total about $61 million. Most of that you can see is going to come from water revenue. That's our sales, 58% or $35 million. And then we have two other categories of reserves. So the general reserves, it'll be about $14.8 million. And then system development reserves, which come from the one-time fees for condition of service that are used for expansion and capacity projects. So those are projects that will enhance and expand the system. Those come to the board for approval, and then we use those funds only for that. The other $1.6 million is a smaller percentage. This would be all other revenue that we have. Capital contributions, interest, fees, any loans that we have that we're drawing down against. We don't have any outstanding, but we do have some grants that will be drawn down against as we spend that money this year and next. The sources and the uses then turn into operating expenses is the biggest pie. $20 million is just operating expensive, or 33%. And then we have three different categories for capital expense. Major capital, these are facility capital projects up at the water treatment plant or a facility. Pipe replacement projects. This is the pipe that we have in our ground that we want to replace because it's at the end of its useful life, or because another agency is doing a road project or a fish passage project, which causes us to move those pipes or relocate them. Department capital is a smaller percent of the pie. It's about $1.1 million. And these are more operational projects for purchasing vehicles, some software or server upgrades, things like that, that would be done within the department. And then we also pay taxes, about $1.7 million. So right now the budget anticipates spending all of those monies, and then at the end of 2026 we'd have $14.5 million of reserves. So we'd be spending down the reserves to pay for a lot of those capital projects. Just to show another breakdown of the operations and maintenance budget, that's the $20.1 million on the prior slide. Starting with the water supply up at the Judy Reservoir, we take water from the Skagit River and also the streams. There's a big expense becoming more and more of pumping, Puget Sound Energy, the electricity used to get it up into the Judy Reservoir. The next section is the water treatment plant, $3.2 million. Again, a lot of energy is used to treat the water and chemicals, and also the staff to maintain that 24/7. Transmission and distribution is moving that water from our Judy Reservoir out to all the customers. We have about 600 miles of pipe, so we spend $2.6 million maintaining and making sure that's all working. Customer service includes the meter department, customer service and billing. There are the staff, that's about 10 staff that interact with the public on a day-to-day basis out in the field and in the customer service. And then everything else that can't be attributed to one of those functions, admin, engineering, is 55% or $11 million of operations. So that includes legal fees, insurance, finance, HR, all the other departments that support those fields or those other systems. All right. Briefly, we'll talk about the capital projects, the $19 million budgeted for next year. On the left, you'll see it by category, and on the right, I just picked out some of the larger projects that will be undergone next year. Hillcrest pipeline replacement and the pipeline relocation at Alger. The two biggest ones at the water treatment plant are the generator replacement and the disinfection system replacement. And then we have water treatment backwash pump and panorama. So some of these projects, the three biggest ones up here, are multi-year projects. So not all of those are going to be done in 2026, but they're going to begin and go for the next 2 or 3 years. The panorama tank is a 3-year project, so it's just beginning. You can see by category, operations and maintenance is $8 million of that. It includes some facilities, repairs, coating of some of the reservoirs, but pipeline replacement is the one that's generating the most interest by engineering as the need going into the future. So we're trying to put at least $5 million a year going forward into pipe replacement projects. That's all types, our pipes and agency pipe replacement projects. We'll be talking about more of these as we get into the CIP, which is next week. In general, the CIP is a rolling 10 years. So I've just got 8 years up here, but the last 3 years show you how much we've done. Over 25 million, 24 million, and 26 million. So we've done $70 million in the last 3 years. This year was a planned reduction and less. We budgeted 15 and should do about 12.7 million. Next year it goes back up to 19. But for me, it was looking at the next 3 years. So we've got over $60 million again of projects that we're trying to fund without using any bank or funding at this point. But we just applied for a loan a grant for the water generator, and we would look at other funding mechanisms as they come up. So hopefully that'll change as we go forward. We're not going to know about grants or anything for several months. So we've prepared the budget and we have a funding mechanism for the next 3 years as we're proposing tonight. And then it drops down again, but again, we can fund cash flow about $12 million of projects a year. So that's kind of the long-term goal, but we also know that there's needs out here. So it's for the next 3 years, and then we look at the CIP for a longer period of time, but some of that funding discussion is going to have to continue as we do them. Obviously, if we don't get all of the projects done from this year, the 15 million, it does go into the next year, and those still need to be completed. So that's part of the financing plan and making sure that we have the funding to pay for that, even if the project goes from 25 into 26. So the last part of this is using all those numbers that are forecasted for this year and next and the budgeted numbers, like I said, for the capital projects, I assume that all of the money will be spent either in that year or the following year. And so these are the policy metrics that have been developed and adopted, and they just are based on the very end of next year. So if all that happens, just like I said it was, that would be a miracle. But also it shows that we have sufficient cash to pay for them. So the first one is a liquidity target based on the forecasted reserves, which is $14.5 million. And then we take it and say, well, that 14.5 million, how many days of operating expenses? So operating expenses are $20 million. So you divide the 14.5 by 20, multiply by 365, and that tells you how many days of operations we could fund. So at the end of the year, we have 252 days of funding. That's 180 days is our target. So we're over the target. It meets the target. So that's a good thing. The next one is the revenue fund balance. This is only the reserves that are the general reserves. They don't include the SDF reserves. So it's a little bit more conservative on taking what the ending reserve number will be. And that one we use 2.5 months of operating expenses plus 2.5 months of depreciation. So those two combined is $6.4 million. And we have $8.4 million. So again, we're above the targeted minimum target that was established a number of years ago. Two more financial policy metrics. Debt service coverage. This one is more outward facing. So this one more people are familiar with. If you go get a loan or if you have a bond, they're going to look at how much debt service you can cover from your net operating revenue. So right now, if we, the forecasted numbers and budgeted numbers, we would have $17 million of net operating revenue. Our debt service next year is $4.7 million. So you divide that into the 17 and you get 3.63, and our minimum target is 2. A lot of the targets are just 1.25 for a bank, so we're well above even that for our minimum target, and we're on track to do better than that for this year. The last one is rate funded capital. This is another simple proxy to use if we're doing enough repairs, replacement, maintenance projects. Our depreciation is about $9.1 million. And so an easy metric to use is, are you doing enough capital to replace what you're depreciating? That should be the accounting equivalent of the useful life. And we budgeted $20 million, and our depreciation, is 9 million. So we're above that target also. So that's our financial policies. We put all that together into the proposed rate increase. We did develop the budget using a 5% rate increase. These numbers would show the impact of that 5% increase across the board for the base rate, tier 1, 3 units used, and also tier 2, 3 units used. You see the new typical average residential use would be $156.72 for bi-monthly. Make sure it's bi-monthly every other month. And then what we're investing in on that typical water utility bill goes to $67 of that is operations and maintenance, but by and large, it's all on the capital side. So the major capital, I broke them out independently here, but this 46 and this 11 are on a percentage basis, and in adding that up, it's really 51% of our bill is now being used to pay for our capital programs and or debt service, which is paying for the capital program. So again, we've got a very large, diverse infrastructure. It's spread out across 600 miles of the county. We talked about it earlier this year that it's a high delivery cost model because we've got a lot of pipes and not as many customers on those pipes. So we do have a higher delivery costs than say other PUDs or a very dense municipality. And so that's just to help understand that that's what we're paying for, all of that infrastructure that we have in place, maintaining it and making sure that it's replaced in a timely way. All right. The last thing is the budget schedule. It's a little bit condensed this year just based on calendar and schedule. Tonight's the public hearing, but we did open that up and we'll take public comment all the way up till the budget adoption. I'll put up my name and email and phone number so people can send that in. Next week is the first work session, which will be HR leading off with then capital improvement plan, engineering, and operations. So that'll be at 3 o'clock in this room. That'll be a longer meeting just because it's the most of the capital improvement plan and lots of project descriptions. And then the next scheduled work session is on the regular scheduled October 28th board meeting, but we'll be starting at 3 o'clock before the 4:30 board meeting. And then we've reserved these other two dates, the 4th, if we need a work session, and then November 12th, which is actually a Wednesday, not a Tuesday because of the holiday. I just wanted to point that out, but that is your regular scheduled meeting. It's on the next day after the holiday. I will take questions if there are any from the board, and also I'll put that up for anyone that might look at this online, and we can take public comment.
Thank you, Brian. I have just a quick comment on the schedule. I just am including the capital improvement plan with engineering operations and HR. I feel like that's a lot to discuss in one evening. Is there any way that we could maybe stretch out the capital improvement plan and engineering to be on their own, or just the capital improvement plan to just be one topic? I feel like I would be burnt out after the first two presentations, personally.
I think what we'll see is that the discussion around the CIP is mostly going to involve engineering. Operations will be here, but I think Mark will probably have the most discussion. So it looks like a lot because operations is listed on there, but we can play it by ear. And if we need to push something to the following work session, we can do that. Yeah.
Will not rush through.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if we need more time, we can easily just stop at that point. You don't have a meeting after that. It's only the work session, so that's good. But if we got to a point where we needed more time, I think operations could easily go after. I think you're doing it because of a scheduling conflict. That's the other reason HR is. Oh, okay. So we can change that around if it gets too long. Sorry.
We'll see how long Kathy has in her presentation.
Yeah.
I haven't reviewed her draft
I
yet.
don't know.
Anything else for tonight? Otherwise, can pick it up at the next work session. All right. Thank you.
All right, well, then that
Thank
will
you.
close the public hearing part of the meeting, and we will move on to manager's report.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. Good afternoon, everyone. Got a few updates to provide. So since our last meeting, we had the water workshop in Leavenworth. Seemed like a long time ago, but there was a lot of content from Skagit employees. I don't know if you got to sit in on sessions from our staff, but they were well received. Had a lot of good feedback on those. So we highlighted our knowledge and skills in those areas. And then there was a great networking event hosted by Mark over there on the Thursday night. So that was great too. Had even more great feedback on that, actually. So hope the commissioners found it worthwhile, other than the smoke and issue with that. But Brian mentioned this, but our seasonal water rights transfers to irrigators. So that has now ended for this year. This was the first year that we used water meters, our own water meters, for tracking the diversions, and that turned out well. There was an online software application that people could log into, so there's a lot of transparency for our regulators, other interested parties, and for the irrigators and staff as well. So that seemed to work very well, and I think that'll be good for us going forward. But also going forward, it's our intention to have some more discussions about the future of the transfers. So I think probably starting in the new year, we'll probably start those discussions again. So stay tuned for more information on that. Brian did mention the grant application that we submitted. So last meeting, we took action to provide 10% in matching funds for a grant application for the generator up at the water treatment plant. So last Monday, the 6th, we submitted the application for the EPA drinking water grant for mid to large size utilities. Our application should be strong because our design is 90% complete. The generator is needed for resiliency. We've got cybersecurity aspects to it as well. So we meet a lot of the major objectives of the program. But also, like Brian said, we're not going to know until next year. It'll probably be 6 months. Well, it depends how long the government shutdown lasts. I think it might be 6 months after that gets resolved that we might hear about it. So every day that goes by just makes it or keeps our decision that far out in the future. So fingers crossed on that. We think we have a strong application. This week, Thursday, October 16th, is the Great Washington Shakeout, 10/16. So we're going to be doing that here at the office. So staff have been instructed to take cover as if there's an earthquake drill, and then to evacuate the building and meet at our rally point, which is over in the yard. So if you happen to be here, it's over in the yard by the truck wash. And so all staff that are here are going to be following that. So wherever you are at 10/16, find a table and duck. Or stand in a doorway too, I guess. You could also do that. A distant second, Jason. Okay. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We had a little bit of conversation about this earlier, but so all staff have been signed up for new training to keep our awareness sharp. So everybody, please remember to do your training. I think you guys probably got the same emails. So I went through it all yesterday. I don't know, probably took half an hour to watch all 3 segments, and it was easy to go through. It wasn't onerous or anything. So encourage everybody to do that. It's important, obviously. Annual performance evaluations are done for non-rep staff, and goals have been set for the next review period. So we're done with that. And Kathy has now started bargaining for our new customer service contract, and customer service and billing group. So that's underway right now. I think you have a meeting tomorrow. Kevin's not here, but the Thirst Buster. So we've packed that up for the season, but it got a lot of interest this year. It was out at a lot of different events, public events, community events, the fair, and of course, street fair was out there as well. And every year that goes by, we get more and more requests for that as people learn about it. And the challenge is finding people to staff it. It's hard because most of the events are after hours or on weekends. And so ultimately, Kevin ends up being responsible for it and takes up a lot of his time. But it's great. We get a lot of good feedback on it, and it's good to use it. We've paid for it. It's good to get it out there. So, but that's mothballed for the rest of the year. And then the rest are just the regular updates. So that's it for me, unless you have any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, George.
Okay.
All right, moving on to new business. Looks like we're going to be looking at an award for a pipeline relocation, Henson Road.
Wendy's going to take care of this.
All
one.
right.
Last Tuesday, we had the bid opening for the pipeline relocation at Henson Road project. And this is another one of the WashDOT required fish passage culvert projects. So it's about 420 feet under Martha Washington Creek, which is on the west side of the freeway, just by Henson Road there, north of Anderson. Earthwork was the low bidder. So many of you might remember that they were the winner for the low bidder for SR 20, and that project had a lot of opportunities for learning, I guess you could say. One of the things we're going to implement on this project is called let's see, what is this called? Has a specific name, Accurate Mapping Probe. So it's this little double or triple gyroscope that goes down the pipe once it's installed. So it can basically give us a super accurate depiction of where the pipe actually is under the ground. So we're hoping that's going to make this project go a lot more smoothly. Let's see, the budget is pretty much covered by the Commerce grant. We had a District 10 grant that was $630,500. And that was supposed to be for Cedardale and Henson Road, but we got a second grant for Cedardale that covered that project. So we're able to use the whole amount for Henson Road. Earthworks bid was $291,386.96. So we're asking that you authorize the general manager to enter into a contract with them for the Henson Road project.
Just a quick clarification question on the 137,617 spent last year. Was that on design for that project?
Yeah, yep, that was design. About, I think the number's on here somewhere, there's about 119,000 of that has already been reimbursed for the grant. And then the rest we will use for construction.
All right, well, I would be looking for a motion.
I move to award the recommendation for the Henson Road project to Earthworks Solutions LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a purchase agreement with PumpTech.
Yes, Mike Fox is not feeling well, so I'm going to take this one for him. Let's see, so the SRD has been in operation since 2011, and we use the pumps more and more each year just because we're getting less and less water from the Cultus Mountain watershed. So it's important that we keep the pumps running as efficiently as possible. And we perform routine rebuilds of the pumps. So that's what this project is about. We've been rebuilding pumps every few years to make sure they operate efficiently. In our capital program, we have this year, next year, and the year after. So 25, 26, 27, we've got money budgeted for these pump rebuilds. So this is the first one of those three. I think the memo says new pump, but basically it's a rebuild. We're using the same pump can. It's just a lot of the internals are being replaced. Let's see, there's some improvements that Kurt had identified staff that watch these pumps and want to make improvements to the design and operation. So there's some improvements to this. We're kind of late in the year to awarding this. There's still a 26-week delivery time. So it'll end up spilling into next year, and our 3-year plan is probably shifting by a little bit. But part of this is a sole source agreement to PumpTech, since they were involved in the original design and sourcing, and we want to use the same company to get all the same benefits. So yeah, it's important to keep these pumps running efficiently as we can, and we got to keep them running well.
For George, discussion.
So I guess you mentioned that this is going to run into next year essentially as far as expenditure goes, because we won't be receiving it until the next year's budget cycle.
Yep.
Correct. Okay. So will it just be that are we still planning on purchasing a second, not purchasing a second pump, but doing another rebuild next year as well? Okay.
The plan is to do one each year. Just
Okay.
this one ended up running late this year. So yeah, it'll just be pushed by a year probably. So 25, 26, and 27, we'll end up doing them. We're paying for them in 26, 27, and 28. We'll probably order them in the years that we plan, but we'll end up paying for them the year after.
Is this the second time we've rebuilt these or?
So this is pump 1. And so, yeah, I think this has already been rebuilt once. I can't remember the exact year. Pumps 3 and 4 were rebuilt last year. So 1 is actually not in right now. We took it out last year. And it's been waiting just to get to this point where we want it rebuilt. But yeah, they've been going on a cycle, and we got to keep them roughly about a 5-year cycle if we can get to it.
What is the estimated number of years that you get out of a pump before needing to do a full replacement, at least on the motor itself? Is it like 20 years, 25 years?
I'm not sure on the motor part. On the pump, this is probably 5 years since the last time, and most of the internals are being replaced. So it's basically a new pump other than the pump can itself. I don't know how long the can would last. I can find that out for you.
Okay.
But the motor it's still there.
All right, well, I'd be looking for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the contract with PumpTech in the amount of $234,571.
Motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of authorizing the general manager to authorize the sole source agreement with PumpTech?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, George. All right, let's talk about IT security, data backup and recovery.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Where is it? Oh, you got it. So part of our ongoing effort is we're looking at ways to mature and improve the services we're providing for overall IT security. And one of the things that we wanted to take a look at was our data backup and recovery method. Currently, we are using two pieces of software, Veeam that does our local backups, and 1111, it used to be named iLand, where we send data to an actual physical place in Texas. Time has changed and the software has become a little bit more mature for us to look at kind of a sole source solution. We took a look at a number of products. That would be myself, Ben, and Luis. And the two that really stood out were a product called Cohesity and Rubric. They did everything that we needed them to be able to do. We've got the on-site backup. We've got a cloud version that's sent out that protects the data to make sure if it gets ransomware, it's able to strip all of that information out of it. So if we wanted to, we could easily just blow away all the stuff locally and pull down from the cloud and recover in a fairly quick manner. The current process, slightly doable, but it'll take us a heck of a lot longer. Putting it in one system makes it a little bit easier for us. And actually, cost-wise, we're going to be roughly the same, maybe even a little bit cheaper to begin with. So we're looking for a action to purchase Cohesity, which through CDW. Rubric. Did I say Cohesity? I meant Rubric, sorry. Been saying it for-
Questions for Alistair?
Question on timing. So obviously we probably have a contract for Veeam and 1111 services
We are
through
now
this
in
year.
We're now in month to
We're
month
on
with
monthly
them.
now.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. How long do you anticipate running them in tandem until we switch over fully?
I'm looking at 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
It probably won't take that long, but I'm just kind of estimating best case or long-term scenario.
And then it says fiscal impact should be minimal. What is your in tandem, I guess, additional costs or within your budget? Like
With the two solutions right now, we're looking at about $12,000 a year for Veeam, and we're paying $10,000 a month for the iLand. So roughly $132,000 all told throughout the year. So this will give us a little bit of a savings.
Better solution, less money.
Yeah, less.
Say
Yeah,
more.
we don't have to. We don't
Less
have to manage
time?
two licenses. Yeah, we don't have to manage two licenses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everything like that. Yeah, and two systems. It
Yep.
should all be encapsulated in one.
Okay.
I got nothing.
All right.
I'd make a motion to approve the contracts with CDW-G in the amount of $123,888.44 for the Rubric Data Protection Service.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Alistair.
You.
All right, let's talk SkagitNet Resolution 2501.
This is a new resolution to basically formalize the existing language, but with a new board at the port. They had a commissioner change over, and Banner Bank, who's listed on here, just they wanted an updated resolution to reflect the current board at the port. Our board hasn't changed, but they've already signed the resolution at the port. So this is just a formality on our side to sign it. And then we can give it to Banner as an update.
I move to approve the SkagitNet resolution number 25-01 concerning banking and amending operating agreement.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, George. All right, so that wraps up the new business. We've got some information in the packet there, as always. Commissioner comments?
It is Flood Awareness Week. So I will be attending the meet and greet on Thursday morning at Dyke District 12. And then just to kind of follow up from the water conference, it was great to hear and see our employees out there showing the innovation and creativity that we are striving to move forward with. And that I mean, I personally, from being in the industry, got a lot out of it, and I'm continuously envious of the tools available brought to our department by our staff members. So
We certainly run the room at the water conference.
Yeah, it was a good conference. I would just note that I am attending the Waputa budget hearing on Thursday as a member of the budget committee,
very nice.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Oh.
That'd be a lot.
With lunch.
Lunch,
lunch.
if you drive to Olympia,
You
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 get
better
lunch.
get lunch.
I'm gonna do it on
I was
Zoom.
gonna say,
You'll eat your lunch on
Uber
Zoom.
Eats, save yourself 300 miles. All right, well, we will now exit to an executive session to review the performance of a public employee per RCW 4230-110-1G for
Well, 5:45
until
to reconvene, or shorter, 5:30?
5:30.
5:30?
5:30, and
No
after
action.
which we will, no action expected, and after which point we will adjourn.